So in the era of Steph Curry, the three-point shot, a lot has changed in the National Basketball Association over the last 15 years. Now, the Minnesota Timberwolves did something a little bit shocking about 24 months ago when they went ahead and traded away just a ton of draft picks and brought in Rudy Gobert. The idea was to actually focus in on defense. Now, this is something that had been done successfully in the 80s and early 90s, but had sort of lost its way into the world of the NBA. Tonight, we are going straight to the point to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves swarming defense that only allowed 37 points tonight in the second half of Game 7 in Denver against the Denver Nuggets. Straight to the point we go, North America. Now, Anthony Edwards on the offensive side of the ball did not have a fantastic night. He only scored 16 points. He did have 8 rebounds and 7 assists in the game, and certainly did a good job dealing with the defense that was in front of him to a certain extent. But the real star of this game was not Karl-Anthony Towns, was not Rudy Gobert, was not the outstanding outstanding minutes that Naz Reid, the Sixth Man of the Year, gave to the Timberwolves in the second half of the game. The real star of the game was actually the Minnesota team effort on defense. It was just absolutely fantastic to watch if you are a fan of defensive basketball. The Timberwolves shut down essentially the defending champions and ultimately dethroned them. 98-90 was the final in the game in Denver. At one point in the early in the second half of the game, the Timberwolves found themselves down by 20 points. They started the second half actually down by 15. And by the way, they ended up completing the biggest comeback in the history of Game 7 comebacks, just off that 15 points, let alone the 20 that the lead had ballooned to during the game. When you watch that game, and if you go back and watch any of it, you'll see that Jaden McDaniels of the Timberwolves did an excellent job on the offensive side of the ball. He had 23 points tonight. And sometimes in the National Basketball Association, if you are going to win important games, you need some of the others to actually deliver. Now, Karl-Anthony Towns had 23 as well. Rudy Gobert had 9 boards and 13 points on the night. Mike Conley had 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 10 points. And Naz Reid, as I mentioned before, had 11 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist in the game. But it was his defensive presence. It was Mike Conley's defensive presence. It was Anthony Edwards' defensive presence. It was Rudy Gobert in the middle. It was Karl-Anthony Towns. And, of course, Jaden McDaniels, who is also one of the young, really great defensive players in the association today. They just flat out shut out the Denver Nuggets in the second half, minus, of course, the great performance that Jokic put on. I absolutely love watching Jokic play. He had 34 points in the game. He had 19 rebounds and 7 assists. The poor guy was just so wiped out towards the end of the game. You could just tell. He played 47 minutes tonight in the Nuggets' loss. You got a feel for him. Jamal Murray showed up today. 35 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds. But for the most part, in the fourth quarter, the Timberwolves defense, the swarming Timberwolves defense, shut down Jamal. In terms of the others, did anybody else actually show up for the Denver Nuggets? Now, normally, if the Denver Nuggets are going to win a game, usually an Aaron Gordon or a Michael Porter Jr. will show up. Sometimes they both show up. In tonight's game, for the most part, those two didn't show up, or at least they got shut down by the Timberwolves swarming defense. Now, Michael Porter Jr. did do a good job on the boards. He had 9 rebounds in the game and 7 points. Aaron Gordon, who's one of my favorite sort of role players in the National Basketball Association, basically got shut out. He only had 4 rebounds and only 4 points in the game tonight. If you go back and watch the Timberwolves defense, you will see, especially in the second half of the game, they make a concerted effort to shut down both Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. It is just fascinating to watch. I highly recommend going out and checking it out. Now, Christian Brown had 5 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds, and actually did play fairly well during the game. But once again, the star of the game in Game 7 in Denver was the Minnesota Timberwolves swarming defense. All right, on to Minnesota they go for their Western Conference Finals. The first time the T-Wolves have been in the Western Conference Finals in 20 years. You have to go all the way back to the KG Sam Cassell days to talk about the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. This will be the franchise's second time in the Western Conference Finals. Once again, 98-90 on a night in which Anthony Edwards didn't necessarily deliver on the offensive side of the ball. In a Game 7, the defense did what the defense has been doing all year, and it absolutely stepped up. All right, North America, I want to know who you think is actually going to win the Western Conference Finals. Go ahead and drop in your comments. Let us know. For the Underrated, I am Dave Dubois, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day. To the guitar riffs we go.